So yesterday we talked about parallel lines or writing parallel lines. Today we're going to talk about writing perpendicular lines. The major difference is what you plug in for the slope. So what we need to know is that perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Okay, so hopefully you've heard of the word opposite and you've heard of the word reciprocal. So let's talk about what they mean together. So when we say opposite reciprocal, we mean opposite sign and then reciprocal, flip the fraction. So let's do a few examples. Let's say that you're given an equation that has a slope of 2. Uh-oh. Put it on the pen. Given an equation that has a slope of 2. Okay? So what that would become is opposite sign, negative, and then flip the fraction. We know that the number 2 as a fraction is 2 over 1. So if we flip that fraction, it's 1 over 2. So the opposite reciprocal of 2 is negative 1/2. What about negative 3? Again, opposite sign, so it's going to be positive. Flip the fraction, 1 over 3. If you're ever given a whole number, if it helps, turn it into a fraction to begin with, okay? All right, what about 2 over 7? The opposite reciprocal would be negative, flip the fraction, 7 over 2. Let's do one more. What about negative 3 over 5? Opposite sign, so it's going to be positive, flip the fraction, 5 over 3. Okay, so now that we know how to identify our slope, our opposite reciprocal slope, we can move on to our first example. All right, so you can pause the video, take a moment to write this down, and press play when you're ready to work through the example. Okay, so let's take a look here. We know that we need to identify the slope, the x, and the y. So if this is the slope of the original equation, what's the opposite reciprocal of 2? Well, we know opposite sign and then flip the fraction, 1/2. So it's negative 1/2. Our x value is negative 3 and our y value is negative 5. So let's pause right here. All we've identified is our opposite reciprocal slope because the original slope is 2. The opposite reciprocal is negative 1/2. And we've identified our x and our y. So now we just need to plug it into y equals mx plus b. So y is negative 5, m is negative 1/2, and x is negative 3 plus b. Now we need to multiply here. Again, you can put it into your calculator. You don't really need to just multiply those numerators, but you know, it's up to you. All right, and so we end up getting 3 over 2 plus b. Now to solve for b, of course, you need to subtract 3 over 2. All right, and then when you put this in your calculator, negative 5 minus 3 over 2, you should get negative 13 over 2. So now we have our new slope and we have our new y-intercept. So please make sure that you don't use the old slope. So if it'll help you, circle the two things you're going to plug in. So we're going to use this and we're going to use this. So our final answer is y equals negative 1/2 x minus 13 over 2. So what we're saying is that this equation is perpendicular to this equation. All right, let's go ahead to example 2. Take a minute and write it down. Press play when you're ready to work through it. All right, so here's our original slope, negative 7 over 6. So the opposite reciprocal of negative 7 over 6 would be 6 over 7. Opposite signs, flip the fraction. Our x equals 0 and our y equals 1. All right, so now we just need to substitute everything in. Y equals 1, m equals 6 over 7, x equals 0. This is pretty simple because anything times 0 is 0. So b just equals 1. So I'm just going to circle the two things that I'm using. We got our slope, we got our y-intercept. So y equals 6 over 7x plus 1. All right, so example 3. I want for you guys to try to do this on your own. So go ahead and pause the video here and press play only once you've solved it yourself. All right, now that everyone has had the opportunity to try this one out, let's see if you got it correct. So our opposite reciprocal slope should have been -3. Our x is also -3, and our y is 0. All right, plug everything in. All right, -3 times -3 is 9. Subtract 9 on both sides. So b equals -9. So y equals -3x minus 9. This equation is perpendicular to this equation. All right, good job. Last one, try this one. Press play when you're ready. Okay, so now that everyone has worked through it, our new slope is +7 over 4. Our x is -3. Our y is -5. So our y was at -5 equals 7 over 4 times -3. Okay, 7 over 4 times -3 is -21 over 4. Now we have to add 21 over 4 on both sides. So b should equal 1/4. All right, so here are our two numbers that we're using. Y therefore equals 7 over 4x plus 1/4. Okay, so this line is perpendicular to this line. Your practice is going to be just like it was yesterday up on the board. So go ahead and pull out a sheet of notebook paper and be ready to work on your practice.